We've been spending the last few weeks playing VR MMO Zenith. Here's our final impressions straight from the VR Gamescast that comes out every Thursday. So let's do the basics just in case you didn't already know, although you almost certainly do. This is a fully online VR MMO. You kind of quest through multiple zones with basically as many friends as you like, provided you're all on the same server. Build up a character in that very traditional RPG sense. You can pick from being a mage, you can pick from using swords, then you have 3 smaller subclasses that you can actually interchange, even though you pick a starting one. And then, you just go out into the wild, you beat up enemies, you do some boss encounters, you do many fetch quests, all in pursuit of that level 40 cap that's currently in the game, which I've been playing for 2 hours. Not 2 hours. I've been playing for 2 weeks, and yes. I've probably played about 20 to 25 hours of it now. I think I'm on level 28, so that gives you some kind of view of like how long you can expect to play. Probably another 10, 15 hours to get to the very, very end, because obviously as you get towards the end of the quests, does that thing where everything starts getting much, much harder and you need to grind loads. Yeah. It's very much an MMO transplanted to VR in its current form. So that means you are going to be doing all of that grinding, which, for a lot of people is a big turn off for the genre, like yourself anyway. So for a lot of people, it's going to be this non-starter experience, although obviously what we've seen in the past couple of weeks and how many people have been enjoying it, definitely a lot of people out there that really, really do want that kind of experience in VR.
Yep.
The thing I would say about it is, yes, there are those kind of more traditional and undaunting elements. So it's actually quite an easy MMO to get into. You've got godstones that give you powers, but it's not like the most complicated system. It's just gesture-based actions, and as you level up, you get more of them. You can put some resources into like boosting some of their stats, just the same way that you can change some of those subclasses. So there is some scale for like minimizing and maximizing a character build, which definitely people that are really, really into the genre are really going to like. But for me, the things that work best about it are the things that are unique to VR. So actually, my favorite thing in the game right now is the cooking, which to get like, health and stuff you need to eat. To get stuff to eat, you need to make it unless you find it out in the environment. And that can be like, it starts off with just a basic cookie, for example. And all that involves doing is heating some milk, which is a little mini game where you kind of test a timer on the boiler so that you don't burn the milk and make it all horrid. And then you've got like flour that you have to flip and make sure you don't burn, and you can actually flip it. And you actually have to make sure you don't burn it. And then you can put some sugar in the thing as well.
That's exactly how I make my cookies at home.
Oh, yeah. Just,
it's just, I'm just flipping things.
Flip that flour.
I'm balancing milk.
Yeah, okay, it's not the most realistic.
No,
it's not Cooking Simulator, Harry.
Obviously, it's not Cooking Simulator, yes,
no. But it's a fun, engaging thing that, if you were working with a normal flat screen MMO, you'd just be clicking.
It'd be a menu.
Yeah,
exactly. And you just get it.
And that would be like, if stuff like that was all the way through the game, I would not be so hot on it, because I'd be like, I don't think this is doing anything for the VR genre and combining with MMO in any meaningful way. But I think the cooking is a very important glimpse into how the developer Ramen VR wants the game to grow in the future. And every element of what we've got right now is just the starting point that hopefully it can bring some more of those VR elements into. So the other 2 great points to that VR element are the climbing and the gliding, which is just locomotion in general. I think is great. You can climb basically any surface in the game. You can get from one side of the map to the other using the kind of population 1 T-pose very, very quickly. And that makes it a really unusually quick-footed MMO. Obviously, it's usually quite a sluggish genre, getting from one side of the map to the other. And the best side quests in the game are actually like, there are these floating islands in a lot of the zones, and they're like, there's 2 switches hidden on in each island. Go and find them. And then you've got a limited stamina gauge, so you kind of like have to clamber over them really, really quickly to find them. And that's like, again, a genuinely different thing that you wouldn't see.
It's like made for VR. Yeah,
you wouldn't see in another MMO, basically. And that's really touching on something for me, where it's like, okay, this is why this thing needs to be in a headset, and it's not just any other MMO. the combat in general is an interesting one because you can clearly see it already making those attempts to be VR specific. So the swords have a limited cooldown after you hit them, so you can't just go bah.
Yeah.
And then you have the mage is basically, it's not really a mage, it's more like you're like the ranged weapon class.
Yeah.
You have
It's a
these
gun.
wrist mounted gauntlets with laser
They're
sights,
guns.
which you can kind of aim from the hip with, but you're still using motion controls, and I can understand how that's the like basic starting point for something that could
Yeah.
grow to be a bit more technically
Totally.
complex going forward. The other great thing about the social element, about the VR element, is the social, which is where the game obviously really shines, because there's just so many like tiny things that really help you build meaningful relationships in the game, whether it's pointing to a chest to a complete stranger, or like coming in to save a complete stranger when they're like up against a battle too hard, and then being like straight away just being like you're welcome, waving and flying off.
Yeah, that's so
Or
cool.
if someone's trolling you, just be like a friend is trolling you. If you don't know them, don't troll. Just be like, stop it. Like there's just another layer of human interaction that you're just naturally getting from putting it into VR, right? There's no need for emotes. There's no need for text chats or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just you're there in the world, and you can express yourself far more personally than you ever have been able to before, which is, I think, is really, really important. So you've got that. Like I said, I think the combat needs a bit more work in all those areas. I would love to see the mage have like more precision-based aiming, so like hitting weak points and stuff, so that you're properly lining up like a little sight or something. And also, I feel like the melee combat could benefit from like a kind of until you fall kind of system of on-screen prompts or whatever of block here, then you can return attack. I would definitely rather if we had like less enemies in those overzones, overworlds, and like each of those encounters be more memorable than the current thing, which is like 5 enemies in a certain zone, and you kind of clear them all out without really thinking about it. But that's a potential direction I think the game should go in the future. But that is getting into the more traditional VR combat side of things, and I can understand if that's not what people really want out of it. The things that definitely have to change, and obviously this is marked as early access on Steam, but you don't get to mark games as early access on Quest and PSVR, so there's really no kind of warning about this. But it's just the game, I can't stress this enough, the game is just not finished in any way, shape, or form. It's been in development for a long time, but really what you have is maybe, I don't know, somewhere between like 10 to 15 overworlds with like 2 or 3 people that give you quests that like there's maybe like an hour or so of questing and grinding in each one, but they're like in very specific areas of the overworld, so you don't even really fully explore each environment. Then you move on to the next one once you've hit the right level and you've got the right quest, and you do it all again until you get to the end of the quest line. And it's a very rinse and repeat formula right now that is just like this kind of bare bones structure to get you to the end and say there's a game there. And now it's like, okay, we've got the whole race. Now we need to like go
player
back
base too. Now, we're gonna go back and really MMO it out.
Yeah. Because like this first overworld that you've played in has a dungeon and multiple areas to climb up and get collectibles and things like that, and like a daily quest system with a racetrack and everything like that. Then as you keep going into more and more zones, you find less and less features. That's the only real dungeon in the game so far. Everything else kind of just plays out in those overworlds. So it definitely needs them to go back in and like add, new like little offshoots to areas here and there, which I'm pretty confident they can do and are planning to do, just the same as they're planning to add that extra class, which again, not much variety in the classes right now. And obviously with MMOs, people really like to hone in and build their own character, and there's not massive amount of scope for that right now, but I'm sure that's coming as well. And then there's the bugs and the glitches and everything like that, which are really, really bad right now. It's so easy to run into chests hanging out in the middle of the air, like textures that don't properly mesh together and like leave like weird little holes into the space-time continuum.
It's giving me
text kind of like
Skyrim flashbacks. Open
yeah,
world
yeah, yeah,
Skyrim.
yeah. But it is a Skyrim situation. Like there's text that like overflows from the menus, everything like that. And again, for an MMO, you'd expect these things. For an early access MMO, you'd certainly expect these things. So
Totally.
you're like, I'm willing to forgive it a lot more. Like I think if this was a single player game and the light was done, it would be like, no, this is a straight up avoid. This kind of stuff is unacceptable. But this is very much a live starting point for the game. And that's really what it comes down to is, as it stands, I already think it is VR's best MMO, and that's somewhat because there's not a lot of great competition out there, but also because it does genuinely deliver on all of the things you'd want from an MMO and on like a pure structural form from the start. It's just really like, this really is just the starting point, and it's going to be a really, really important and telling year for Zenith if that roadmap is able to get all of these things out in the next 12 months and we're able to make it up to, let's say, the holiday season and have our Game of the Year discussion. This game is going to have had plentiful, meaningful updates to be in that conversation by the end of the year, I reckon.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're a very well-funded team. It seems to have been a very successful launch for them. So I'm kind of hopeful we'll get there. Make sure to check the VR Gamescast every Thursday for all the latest VR reviews and news.